when you look anywhere?
Your camera is the left one. Okay. If you want to address directly.
Okay. Yeah, I can.
Okay. And I have a next guest, and the same two questions for you. What's your name and what brings you to JCON?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kai Horstmann, and I'm giving two talks, one about Valhalla and one about Project Loom.
So two projects within OpenJDK which are changing the way Java works.
Valhalla will certainly change the way Java works in the internals if and when it's finally ready. Loom is ready today, and it will surely change the way that people write like server-side applications. They will thank their stars that they no longer have to write them in that dreaded reactive style.
Okay, so what are the main changes for both Valhalla and Loom?
So let's start with Loom. Loom works. It's there in 21. It'll be even better in 25 because it'll remove some annoying restrictions about the intrinsic locks. And its big promise is that right now, if you have an application where you want to have high throughput, um, uh, where you have more incoming requests than the number of platform threads, you're forced into a very uncomfortable programming style whose promoters tell you it's good for you, but it actually is a pain. And so you can just write the way that you would like to write. You make a blocking call and you just block. Your virtual thread will get parked. When the answer is ready, it'll wake up again. And that's pretty much automatic. There are, of course, all sorts of little gotchas, both real and perceived. And so what I'm doing is I'm showing how you can actually measure whether you're affected by one of them.
And then Project Valhalla is another project?
Well, Valhalla is now, I think, 11 years old, and so its grand scheme is to bring what's called value types into the platform. So value type is like a primitive type today, where it's something that's flat, that's small, that can fit into a register or a few. And if you have an array of them, you don't have any indirection, you don't have pointers. And so soon you'll be able to do your own value types, points or tuples or things like that. And the question there really is efficiency. And so what I'm showing is by actually looking at the byte codes, the machine codes that are generated, not just the byte codes, because there you can't see anything, but the physical machine codes, there'll be some benchmarking, some measuring of memory, and you'll really see that the performance is what they promise. There's not much syntax to it, so the interesting thing is really by looking under the hood.
These projects are big changes, but actually they are implemented and released into JEPs, so smaller improvements. Isn't that a difficult way to manage the project, or does it really make it easy to bring evolutions into Java?
I think, I mean, I've seen situations where the JEP process didn't really work as well as one might like in pattern matching, where I think that incremental approach was not a success. But with Loom in particular, I think it's very nicely done. It uh, there was several phases of implementations. There was a lot of input taking, and still today there's some refinements to the APIs. And so this was not rushed. It's rolled out in a way that makes it, I think, reasonable for the community to absorb it. With Valhalla, it's very hard to say. It's such a huge undertaking to make such a really incredible change to the entire platform that I mean, you have to at some point do it in stages. And so there was a talk by Brian Gutz about how they discovered after doing so many iterations that by doing things in a particular order and in a particular way, that a lot of the problems collapsed out. And I think that they wouldn't have figured that out if they hadn't given themselves the time to do it in increments. How it's going to be rolled out with the JEPs, there is now a JEP for value types, and we'll probably see that at some point, maybe in Java 26. I'm not making any promises. I'm not working for Oracle. But so I think that that rollout process, it's hard to do it in any other way. So I think overall we should be thankful that this thing has worked out that way. Of course, it works fantastically well for kind of smaller features that you can wrap your head around. But anyway, I mean, I think it is amazing that Java, after 30 years, it's alive and well and thriving, and it is getting better.
So you have mentioned those two projects. There are a lot more projects ongoing. Are there a few others that you're really looking forward to that they will arrive soon in Java?
Well, the one thing that I'm personally looking forward to be finalized is that thing that now you no longer have to write public static void main, and if you write small programs, then you don't even have to have a class. Now that sounds like a silly thing, right? Because everyone uses Java for big iron projects. But the truth is, I've been using Java as a scripting language now for several years, just because you can. And I'm here to tell you that it is a better scripting language than that other six-letter language that everyone is so enamored about. For the simple reason that Java is compile time typed. And so I find myself writing these scripts now more convenient because no longer having to write so much boilerplate. And my IDE tells me right away whether I made a stupid mistake. Whereas in that other language with those 6 letters, I find out that I did something stupid when I run the program and it does something strange.
I do love also the approach that JBang has brought us, that you can also include dependencies in those single file applications. I use it a lot to demo Py4j to show how you can interact with electronics on a Raspberry Pi. I think indeed for education purposes and example purposes that the simplified syntax will make it a lot easier for a lot of people to get started with Java.
Yes, and amen to JBang. That thing with the dependency management where you can simply say, add those libraries to my project, that is something that Java does need to have. So I was just at Java 1 and gave a talk on using Java in the small, and I kind of derisively said, how come Java has never heard of this thing called Maven Central? And afterwards, Stuart Marks told me, we are looking at this, and we do need to have a solution that does something like that. And so I very much look forward to a JEP that will do something just to that effect, because it really is an important part of the picture. And another thing on the positive side, actually, once you use something like that, it is pretty convenient. Whereas in other environments that should remain unnamed with 6 letters, just try to do your dependency management. It's madness.
Yeah, I totally agree that this is one of the strong things, that you can really build a project very easily in Java. Even if you go to very big projects with a lot of dependencies, there's one central tool that allows you to do all this.
Yeah, and that I think is another thing that we are so lucky that we have all the tooling available. We have fantastic IDEs. I've known people who say, "Oh, I'll just do this thing in VS Code," and I say, "Why?" Right? Here you have an IDE that does all sorts of things for you, and I guess you could not do that, but I don't quite see the point. And also, you have people say Maven is old and uses XML, but Maven is pretty amazing. And on the other hand, something like JBang for programming in the small is also pretty amazing. So there's great tool support, and so Java really more and more has become like my Swiss Army knife for everything.
And I totally disagree. If people say XML is old, I really prefer XML above YAML.
Oh yes, of course. And there's not that much wrong with XML. It is verbose if you have to write by hand. But how many POM files do you write by hand?
Okay, thanks a lot for sharing all this knowledge. Good luck with the talks, and thank you for your time for this interview.
All right, thanks very much.